and I am recording right now. So yes. So first, I would like to ask you, ladies and gentlemen, and as I said, it's a kind of a small, intimate group here. It will be quite interesting for us to kind of interact together. So the first question that I would like to propose to you here is, how do you know, really, let's go back to basics. How do you know if you are cut out to be a entrepreneur? How do you know if you are meant to be an entrepreneur? And by all means, now is this time where you can unmute yourself or you can leave a message in the chat box, just to kind of share and give me some of your thought process on this. How do you know if you are meant to be an entrepreneur? Anyone can share any comment, or you can by all means unmute yourself. We had some interaction before, so I would hope to have some interaction now as well. So the question is, how do you know if you are cut out to be an entrepreneur? So perhaps I can ask someone. The only person I can see on my screen who has the video on is Zorika. I'm not sure if I pronounced your name right. Would you be able to share, how would you know if you are cut out to be an entrepreneur?
My name is Zorica.
Zorika,
so
sorry.
That is the way how you should pronounce. Yep. So I need to give the answers on some questions if I want to know if I'm one of the entrepreneurs. So what kind of ability I have, for example, then what is my habits.
Interesting. So what kind of ability you have? What are your habits?
Maybe I need to answer if I'm correct. I'm a person who likes change, so.
Right. No, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely not simple to understand that. But thank you for sharing that. This is absolutely useful information. Anyone else would like to share their thoughts about how would you know if you are meant to be an entrepreneur? What about you, Nadia? You're on mute. You're on mute, Nadia. Nadia, you are on mute.
Hello, Laurent. Shall I?
Yes. Oh, sorry. Did someone from? I'm happy to share, but I think someone from the audience wants to speak now.
Sure. Anyone said something?
I would say something. I'll set in the chat. I think an entrepreneur knows he likes something and want to learn anything about to bring it forward, to bring it to the market, or do it and go 150% beyond it and change it until it works.
Fantastic. That's a very good insight. So take things to another level, right? That's what you're saying.
Yes.
Great. Nadia, you were saying something? Thank you for sharing, Ruben.
You're welcome.
I think to be an entrepreneur, you need to be able to handle a lot of stress. I guess go through stressful situations without letting it break you, because I think it would be, it's at the end of the day, you're the only person who's responsible for everything that happens. I think if you can you got to be able to put up with a lot of stress, failure, and try again, which I think Ruben, who just spoke, mentioned that. And never give up. And I think if you can do all those things, then you're set up for being an entrepreneur. I don't know, Laurent, you know better than me. You tell me the correct answer.
Yeah. So I'm trying to gauge your thoughts here, because it's quite important for all of us to be on the same page and to kind of exchange on that. So here I'm going to be sharing with you. Thank you for sharing that, Nadia, by the way. Here I'm going to be sharing with you some of the insights that I have received, obviously from myself, from the clients that I have been working with, and from the market research as well. So the first thing that comes to mind, ladies and gentlemen, is that you want to be financially independent. So you don't want to be, obviously, getting someone to tell you how much you're worth, basically, or you don't want to be restricted to someone who will be nominating your salary and how much you make in life, so to speak, eventually. So that financial independence is quite important or quite powerful trait that most entrepreneurs has. The other thing is that you don't feel like you are fitting in. So you always feel like you are this black sheep, or you feel that you don't get along too much with the corporate culture or with the corporate setup, so to speak, or whether with your peers, with your subordinates, or with your supervisors. So you're always kind of feeling that you don't fit in there, and there's something else that you are meant to do other than what you are doing right now. The other thing is that you are constantly looking for reaching new achievements. You are constantly looking for reaching new achievements. What do I mean by that? It's about, at the end of the day, you being a go-getter, you being not happy with just getting by. So nothing is good enough, and you always want to kind of build more and more and achieve more and more, obviously. The other thing would be taking risk. So you were born as a risk taker, or you take a lot of risk. You're not afraid to confront risk, or even if the stakes are high, you're happy to kind of cross the line of risk. The other thing that would be also considered is you always look at the bigger picture. So you focus on the vision, you focus on the strategy, you focus on the macro side of things rather than the micro side of things. So you don't like to get bogged down too much in detail, and you always like to focus on the big picture and the vision ahead, so to speak. Other things that are common in the traits of the entrepreneur is, if you have someone in your life who actually told you that before, someone who actually mentioned to you before that you are cut out to be an entrepreneur, maybe they have seen something in you that your mindset is not enabling you to see that. It could be a mentor, it could be a superior, it could be a friend or a colleague or a coach, anyone who have seen that in you, but you haven't owned it yet, so to speak. And the other thing is the character traits. What's the common character traits for an entrepreneur? Curiosity. I think Ruben alluded also to that, and if I'm not mistaken, Zorika as well, in terms of being curious and thinking about the habits that you want to have, and that would get you to discover more, which is what brought you to this session today on a Sunday morning. So there you go. Being tenacious, have a bit of a resilience, confidence, and being an introvert as well, which is a common trait within entrepreneurs based on research as well. Now, the natural question beyond that, ladies and gentlemen, would be, guess what? How do you know that you're not meant to be an entrepreneur? So here, if I can also get some interaction, and this is going to be a very interesting one, because a lot of people, some of you might be quite passionate about the idea of entrepreneurship, which is up and coming topic, up and coming notion, which a lot of people are, really wanting to follow the financial independence. But there is some things that you need to take into consideration, which is related to how is the journey of entrepreneurship? What do you have to go through in order for you to become an entrepreneur? And we're going to talk about that throughout the call or throughout the presentation today. But how do you know if you are not meant to be an entrepreneur? Is there anyone who can give their opinion? That would be fabulous.
I would like to speak about this.
Sure.
I have been an entrepreneur before.
Mm-hmm.
I was grown up in Turkey. My parents were teachers, and there is always this. Sorry if my English is not enough. I try to explain
Perfect.
what I mean.
Perfect.
This deception that it is best to go to work for government or whatever. It's not
Security.
government. Yeah,
Security.
You have this job. No, you shouldn't go like try to be an entrepreneur or try any sales or these kind of things. Sure. That you hear while you are growing up, And when I lost my job, after that, I became an entrepreneur. And I didn't know that I even wanted to do something like that. I was sort of like not forced, but opportunities opened because of that. Otherwise, if I wouldn't be, because of company relocated my position in China, if that wouldn't happen, most probably I would continue in a paid job in a corporate as long as I can. So I wouldn't even think about being an entrepreneur. But later on, what I realized is that actually, working as an employer, it is not very much different than being an entrepreneur. First, you have to sell yourself, like sell yourself mean your skills, in a job interview. It is a selling process. You are selling your, your personality, your abilities, what you can do, what you cannot do. You have to compete with other people. Sure. You make an agreement with a company. You agree to do some things, and they agree to pay you some things, like selling projects, like an entrepreneur. It's not really actually, guaranteed that you will have that job for the rest of your life, right? There is always a risk in there also. There are so much common things, like being an entrepreneur. I guess people don't realize this. So if somebody says that I cannot be an entrepreneur, it is because of what we are hearing about what is actually being an entrepreneur means, and it's so difficult to see these common elements of actually being an employer somewhere. And entrepreneurship is actually like, if you lose your job, generally you are like, okay, what can I do now? I'm like, oh my God, this is the end of the world. But if you're an entrepreneur, most probably you have more options to create something and 100%. See opportunities. And so that's why actually I don't think that nobody is not meant to be an entrepreneur. Okay. It's more like we don't know really about it, maybe. I mean, what it means actually.
Fair enough.
Laurent, may I make a comment? Okay, as the host, I'm supposed to listen to others, but I just quickly, I think there is a lot of difference. Some people, they just want to work 9 to 5 and get their salary, and that's all they want. Being an entrepreneur is very different. Well, I guess if you're your own boss, actually, that's what I understand by entrepreneur. You've got to be working around the clock. It's not about a 9 to 5 job. And I think some people like having rules to follow and, or being told what to do. Absolutely. So some people want to be told, you gotta, whatever, write a 500 word report on X topic, and then you finish and you go home and you get your salary. And some people don't want to be told what to do. I'm just gonna say that. So correct. I think there's different personalities. Entrepreneur and employee is the word.
Very interesting. And first of all,
my opinion.
Sure. Just 1 second, Zorika, if you can pause for a second. First of all, Izil, thank you for sharing your contribution, as well as Nadia. And it's very interesting that both of you are talking about mindset here. So obviously, it all comes down to mindset. Whether you want to look at your reality as I could be a entrepreneur, which would be in your case similar to how you were in your company, working for a company, Izil, or I could be happy with my 9 to 5 job or 8 to 6 or whatever is the time that you work with, and that will be sufficient for me. I want to disconnect after that, and I don't want to have any responsibility. So not having responsibility is part of the mindset of I don't want to get more responsibility than what I have right now with my career. Whereas being an entrepreneur, you have full responsibility and you have obviously complete responsibility of your business, so to speak. So now, Zorika, would you like to contribute with a comment?
Yes.
Please.
What if you are a combination? Like, because Nadia went on one side and actually she said something different. So like, what if you like to do and for the company and you want to work on your own something? Is that possible?
Yes, that's
Are you
absolutely
then
possible.
considered as well as an entrepreneur? Yeah.
Yes, of course, 100%, 100%. So great. I mean, this is exactly the direction that I would recommend, and that's what I would do with anyone who I would be potentially collaborating with, basically. So 100%. Thank you also for sharing that, Zorika, this intervention. Just to kind of share with you, based also on the recent and my experience as well, ladies and gentlemen, with the how do you know that you're not cut out to be a entrepreneur? You don't, you like to stay in your comfort zone. So here we're going back to the point of Nadia, which is, you are someone who wants to stay in your comfort zone. You don't like to take any risk. You're happy to do your job from 9 to 5 or whatever time it is. And ask yourself this question: when is the last time you have confronted a fearful experience? When is the last time you have confronted a fear? And if your answer that I don't remember when is the last time I have, experienced a fearful experience, that I have signed up for it, so to speak, obviously, or I have taken a risk, it means that maybe entrepreneurship is something that you want to think twice about it before you go into it, because it does incorporate some risk, at least the risk of not having a stable and a recurrent income to start with, right from there. The other thing is, here I'm talking about what they call the 2% mindset. The 2% mindset, based on the research that they have done, is the people that likes to stay in their comfort zone, which is 98% of the workforce, and 2%, they're the ones who actually they consider themselves as either disruptive, or they like to actually step out of the norm and do something on their own. So do you belong to the 2% mindset, or do you belong to the 98% of the workforce who is happy to stay in their comfort zone? And they have their own definition. Each one have their own definition of their comfort zone at the end of the day. They think that people who think that entrepreneurship is the easy path to make money, this is absolutely wrong. And, if you think that, if you heard some stories of someone made millions after a couple of years of starting a entrepreneurship venture, there was 1,000 story behind that of people who failed or struggled for years and years and years, who didn't make any profit beyond their the cash that can maintain the business, so to speak. So on average, they say it takes about anything between 2 to 3 years for any business or any entrepreneurial venture to start actually producing profitable result beyond their expenses, beyond their recurrent costs, so to speak. So it's not an easy path to make money. The other thing would be if you don't have a problem to solve, like if you don't have that invention. I recall earlier Franz was talking about his product that is going to be a disruptive product, which is quite interesting. So if you don't have an idea, a problem that you're going to be solving, or something that you're going to be, a solution that you're going to be offering to the market, whether if you are a consultant or you're selling a service or you're selling an actual product, that will be potentially something that you want to think twice whether entrepreneurship is something for you or not. The other thing would be what I'm going to be sharing here is a study that was done on the top unicorn founders. Where did they get the idea from? So the top unicorn founders seems like the majority have found the idea through their own industry. So if you have been working in let's say the fashion industry, you come up with a fashion entrepreneurship venture. Whatever industry you work for, seems like 27% of the top founders of unicorns, they started basically from their own industry to come up with the idea. This is back to the point of finding a solution or finding a problem that you can resolve. The second highest would be scratching your own itch. And what do I mean by that? Is following your desire. If you have a desire to to create something, if you have a desire to revolutionize something in an industry, again, solving a problem. Yes.
I'm so sorry to interrupt, just to make sure, because not everyone is a native English speaker. And by unicorn, you mean a new company that's valued at more than $1 billion, correct?
Correct.
Just for the audience, in case someone that is not familiar with that.
Sure, absolutely. Great intervention. No, amazing. So yes, unicorn is any business that worth more than $1 billion is a unicorn. So here we're talking about, all the Facebook, if we talk about the top 100, we're talking about perhaps the part of the Fortune 100, basically. Scratching your own itch, again, is basically following a desire, following a solution that you have come up with and you're quite passionate about it. And the last thing that I want to mention here, which is the third one, is the copying another solution with a twist. So I'll give you a small example, which I normally give here, which is Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg, as most of you may know, he took the idea from a student at the time who had the idea of the Facebook, but he took it to another level. He revolutionized it. He made it completely different and revamped it to make it what it is right now. So that's another way to get the ideas. And what else actually shows up in terms of how do you know that you're not meant to be an entrepreneur? Procrastination. So if you are someone who get to procrastinate a lot, if you are someone who make plans, who have ideas, but you don't action these ideas, you potentially may be not be able to pursue with entrepreneurship, because entrepreneurship is all about being proactive, is all about moving forward with your plans and creating plans and being as active as possible with finalizing your plans. If you don't have any flair for marketing, not necessarily that you would need to have your marketing plan from the get-go, but at least have some tendency to create some marketing plans, because any business that you're going to be launching out there, if it doesn't have a solid and rigid marketing plan to back it up, to launch it into the market, it's not going to enable it to succeed, so to speak. And last but not least, in fact, getting along with everyone. And what I'm talking about here, some people who are very friendly and very flexible find it hard sometimes to come across or to be rigid in the decision making, to be rigid in their mentality, so to speak, sometimes. And here is a study that was done by Harvard Business Review, where they have showed that the majority of the entrepreneurs are high on persuasion, leadership, and personal accountability, but they rank fairly low on empathy, planning, and self-management. And here I'm going to be highlighting on the empathy. If you're the kind of person who gets along with everyone and you find it hard, for example, to terminate someone, for example, should you need to do that, or close part of your business, or take some tough decisions, so to speak, it's something that you want to think about, because that is part of the reality of the entrepreneur. And finally, here I want to share some of the common traits of the entrepreneur, which is what I've discussed earlier, which is about curiosity and the introversion and all of the aspects that I mentioned before, which all correlate to these topics that I have brought up right now. Now, the question would be that what is really blocking you from moving from being a corporate person to an entrepreneur? What is really blocking you from moving from a corporate person to an entrepreneur? The first thing, based on the research that I've done and the many people that I have come across and worked with throughout this whole year, and we're talking about hundreds of people from webinars and so on, they were classified under four main categories from what is potentially stopping you. The first one is the mindset, which we discussed predominantly in the beginning. You were talking about, understanding how to get out of your comfort, how to create the right habits, and so on. So the mindset, a lot of people think that I don't have what it takes to succeed. I don't have what it takes to succeed, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not smart enough, or it's too late for me. I'm kind of too mature and too old for me to actually move into doing something on my own. And I don't know even how to do that, so to speak, right? Um, Uncertainty, Corona or the COVID-19 have taken uncertainty to another level, have given a new definition to uncertainty and risk. And in this environment, a lot of people might be thinking to themselves that, hey, I mean, I might as well lay low in this environment and slow down and, taking it easy until I see through what's going to happen after the COVID. Whereas other people out there are thinking, how can I capture this moment? How can I capture this moment in time and pivot my career or pivot my business in order for me to benefit from the fact that the world is completely getting reshaped and changing right now. And the last piece that I want to mention in the uncertainty, which is a lot of the struggle of many of the people that I've come across, is the clarity. A lot of you out there have this feeling and have this knowledge that I don't want to be working for corporate anymore. I want to become an entrepreneur, but I don't know exactly what to do. I don't have clarity. What am I going to do in my career or in my next step as an entrepreneur? And that is something that blocks a lot of people. Capacity is natural for people who are busy, they have their plans, they have their family, that they cannot afford to actually go over and beyond what they're doing today in order for them to start a venture. And I guess Zorika mentioned as well earlier that some people can start something while they are still working in the company, start something in parallel. But for some people that wouldn't work because they don't have the capacity, because of their commitment or because of their schedule. The financials, it's a big one. We all have too many financial commitment, and I'm going to be hazarding a guess that all of you out there now do have the financial commitment that can restrain you from actually taking a risk and stepping out of your comfort zone and start investing into a venture, even if you have a stream of income that is happening at the moment, being employed, obviously. So you may be wondering, and for some of you who have not attended any of my webinars, why am I talking about entrepreneurship, change, dealing with fear, and all of these things? So I have started my, at my younger age, I grew up in a war-ridden country where fear was running in my veins at the younger age. I wanted to step out of my comfort zone, and I wanted to move to Australia to pursue my studies over there at the younger age as well. And I fell in love with the country. So I did that, and I fell in love with the country. And eventually I wanted to stay there, but that was not like it was not, acceptable by the authorities here. So I had to get resourceful. My intention was for me to become a businessman, but I had to get resourceful for me to find a way to stay in the country. So I end up learning to become a cook, and I'd end up doing this for a couple of years. And that's how I end up staying in the country. Eventually, when I got my residency and I had the authority to, the ability to stay in the country, I moved into corporate again, and I started my corporate journey. And I worked my way up until the last position that I had in Australia was working for Toyota as a finance manager, quite secure, really comfortable, and with a lot of perks. But I had this desire to continue becoming an international person again. And that was not possible through the company. So, the risk was too high, and I didn't want to take that risk. So I remained in the company for several years because I didn't want to take that risk, until the pain of continuing doing what I'm doing became so much so that it was not tolerable. And this is when I decided to leave and move to Dubai. And this is when I found a job with Louis Vuitton. And I wanted always to become an international person. And they say, careful what you wish for. Eventually, I end up staying with them for 10 years. I worked with them in 3 countries. My last assignment was the CFO of Louis Vuitton for South America, based in Brazil, actually. And I did that for almost 5 years. But eventually, ladies and gentlemen, I really wanted to, move from corporate. My values have changed in life, and we all experienced that. When we first started our career, our values would be something, and eventually, as you start moving with your career, your appetite towards doing different things in life start change. And in my case, my values was leaning more towards becoming independent, not so much independent financially, but independent in terms of, kind of creating my own story, so to speak. And I've always had that in me. So I wanted to become an entrepreneur, but obviously I was in a very comfortable golden cage. We were also talking about golden cage before. As an expatriate, moving with them to 3 countries. So it was quite hard to get out of that comfort zone until the pain again. And, I do what I do to help people avoid that pain. The pain of staying where I am and the conflict that I had from staying where I am became so much so that I decided to step out of that comfort zone and become what I'm doing today, which is a career coach, business coach, as well as a speaker. So that's my story, and I want to think about my story and see if you have come across something similar in your career, in your life, where you are in a place where it feels quite comfortable and quite glamorous, so to speak, or luxurious, and then you feel that this is not who you are. It doesn't define you anymore, and your values have changed. But if you are staying where you are right now, the reality is, continue doing what you're doing, you continue getting what you're getting. So if you're feeling the conflict within you, that conflict for a reason or another may amplify in the future and turn into, a pain. And that's what I want people to avoid, basically. Now, here's the thing. They say, and here I'm going to be sharing with you a piece of statistic. And maybe if you can tell me, unmute yourself, or by all means, leave it in the chat. Every hour, there is a certain number of entrepreneur being born or initiated in this world. Every hour, there is a certain number, based on the research, a certain number of entrepreneur being initiated in the world. Do you know how many entrepreneur being born in the world every hour or initiated? Can you just give me a number? Any number that comes to mind. You can leave it in the chat.
250,000?
People.
One by one, please. Sorry. Ruben?
250,000?
50,000, you said?
250.
200. Okay. Very, very, very ambitious number. Zorika, you were saying?
I said that is 1 or maybe 2% from whole world. So
okay, very, very ambitious. In fact, I'm really
probably less, because you said it's like 1%, so this will be less, maybe 0 point.
I would say 1
every hour. So in
because
fact,
every hour it's very frequent, so it will be even less. It will be less.
In fact, every hour there's 11,000 entrepreneurs being initiated in this world. Every hour, so do the math, every 24 hours and so on, right? Whereas out of this 11,000, how many get to survive in terms of percentage? Ruben, you're quite ambitious with your numbers there. Could you give me a percentage how many get to survive?
I think 25%.
Okay.
The next 4 years.
I love it.
Next 3 years.
Right. So what about you, Zorika? You were making also contribution on that. What's the percentage of the survival? The people like what's the percentage of the 11,000 that get to survive?
Of this one, maybe from 11,000, maybe
percentage-wise,
this will be like, for me, 0.5%.
0.5. We have a polarity here, which is great. Thank you for sharing that, Zarika, as well. In fact, globally, 1% get to survive. Out of 11,000, 1% get to survive, basically. So in a study that was made by the European Union, they found that almost 40% of the people who are considering to become entrepreneurs are scared of failing. Aren't we all? In fact, 40% is a surprise to me. It could be even higher than that. But in this study, they were able to break down what actually makes up the causes of this fear of failure. What are the causes of the fear of the failure? The first one, which we have spoken about before, out of the four main categories, is the financial fears. The financial fears. You have your commitment, and it could be quite hard for you to commit to something beyond your current financial commitment, obviously, right? The career fears, and what I'm talking about here is actually your portfolio or your resume. So if you were if you are working in corporate and you want to step out of your corporate, you don't want to be damaging. You have a fear of damaging your resume or your portfolio or your track history, so to speak. The social fear, which is the fear of judgment from people, from colleagues, from subordinates, from family, from friends, and so on. The self-perception fears. Ladies and gentlemen, we can be quite hard on ourselves sometimes. If you catch sometimes, what you say, if you listen to what you say to yourself sometimes and the judgment that you give to yourself, you'll be actually quite impressed. Feeling of losing it all. So feeling of like your world is actually falling apart. That would be one of the causes of the fear of failure. And finally, the fear of losing personal freedom. And here we're talking about the hour and the commitment. And there is a validity in that because entrepreneurship is going to be incorporating a lot of your time and a lot of your energy and a lot of your resources, especially if you're doing it in parallel to a current job that you have. So that is definitely a valid one. So, but on the other hand, ladies and gentlemen, in the corporate, what is happening? In many studies that we have seen, one of them is the one from Gallup International. 85% of people who are employed globally are not satisfied. 85% of people are not satisfied. That could be any one of you on this call today. If you are working in a corporate environment, that's a huge number. That's definitely a huge number. And out of this 85%, if I break it down, they say that 67% are not engaged, and 18% are like actively disengaged. So 67% are not engaged, so they're kind of passive. They just go there and go with the flow. Whereas 18% are actively disengaged. So it's in fact even disrupting the environment. And what's the cost of that on the global economy? The cost of that on global economy is obviously in productivity. And when they measured it, it was $7 trillion. $7 trillion. So the 85% of the people that are unsatisfied through their lack of productivity, they're costing the global economy $7 trillion. Massive numbers. Now, the one thing that I have come across and that has disabled me and refrained me and took me a long time for me to step out of my comfort zone to go from corporate to become independent entrepreneur is, what would people say? That question, ladies and gentlemen, has killed a lot of dreams for a lot of us. And is there anyone from you can relate to that? Is there anyone from you that is fearing or avoiding judgment? That's why they don't take the risk that they want to take. What happened in my career track is when my career was growing exponentially and progressively forward, my level of satisfaction for my career was declining tremendously until I got to a stage where there was a massive void between my career progress and my level of satisfaction. And I had to do something to pivot. I had to do something to regain my sanity. But the one thing that is causing the impact on your sanity is your saboteur. So we go back to the main element, which is the mindset. The saboteur is a result of a narrative, is a result of your subconscious mind that is giving you messages, signals to preserve you, to keep you in your comfort zone. But that saboteur can also deter you from moving forward and following a dream or following a desire. So the question that you want to ask yourself here, ladies and gentlemen, is what is the cost of inaction? Whether you are in corporate today, because you could be falling under two categories, whether you're in corporate today and you're conflicted whether you should be in corporate or not, or whether you are, moving as an entrepreneur and you are conflicted whether it's the right thing for you or not, regardless, you gotta do something about that. Otherwise, that conflict is gonna continue amplifying. And if you have any of this conflict, and if that conflict brought you to this call today, ask yourself, how would your life look like 5 years from now if you don't take any action towards at least finding peace, whether you are cut out to be an entrepreneur, or if you are not cut out to be an entrepreneur, how could you find peace and how could you reduce that conflict being in the corporate environment? How can that look like? So the cost of inaction might be really tremendous. What would you have missed out on 5 years from now? What would it have cost you on your relationship, on your significant other, on your community, on your happiness? How would that feel 5 years from now? So if we go back to the four main causes that were potentially blocking people from moving from corporate or changing their career, basically, we spoke about the mindset. The mindset, the first element, which is very important, is to get some clarity on what is driving that narrative. Your brain is tremendous. It's got a lot of capability to create many stories, which comes from circuitries in your brain. One notion that I want to share with you here is your brain have 100 billion neuron and also has 5,000 synapse, which is the element that connects two neurons. And whenever two neurons are connected, and I'm going into the science of things here, you have a thought, which can be an emotion also, which can lead into a thought, that can lead into emotion, that can lead into a behavior, that could lead into a thought process or a pattern or a negative belief. So you want to understand and unpack what is that software that is driving your negative beliefs about yourself, that I am not good enough, that I cannot do that I am too old, I don't have the skills, or what's behind that? What's the story behind that? And the more you unpack, the more you get to know yourself, the more you get to know what is really driving you to make your decision. And that's not only on your career, on all aspects of your life, because we all have that. And with that mindset, you want to get a leverage. So I always give the examples of sports gold medalist. So imagine you have a sports gold medalist in a race, right? And the difference between sometimes a gold medalist and a silver and a bronze could be even less than a second in a race, could be even less than a second. And what makes that difference between winning and losing is that small tweaks that the athlete does in his mindset, the structure that he creates, the goals that he set to himself, the consistency that this athlete has that always follow every single time, and the support system that he has from outside in a coach, mentor, accountability buddy, or whatever. So get leverage from outside of yourself that can help you to keep you on track. Otherwise, you may have the talent, you may have what it takes, but it may not be enough for you to stay on track, so to speak. On the uncertainty, behind any uncertainty, ladies and gentlemen, there is a fear. And the fear obviously can cause procrastination and can cause you hindering or deterring your progress. But behind this fear is the lack of knowledge of what's the future is holding for you. If you know what's the future is going to be holding for you, there's a lot of things you could go ahead and do right now because you know what's going to happen. But because we don't know what's going to happen in the future, that hold us back from making any decisions or taking any action sometimes. And the fact and the matter that we don't have clarity, if you don't have clarity in terms of what do you want to do with your career, what do you want to do with your career? If you don't have clarity, that's not going to help you to understand the future or to have visibility of the future. And one tool, and there are many tools out there that I utilize, I call it the Ikigai. And that tool, it's almost like a structure. It's a map that will enable you to create a compass using your values, your skills, your talent, your experience. You will create a map that will mix up a compass, and it will help you to know which direction at least you should be taking in your career and in your future. That may not be the job description, it may not give you the job description, but will give you the clarity. And once you have the clarity, you can build the plans, you can build plans based on that clarity that you're going to be gaining. In terms of the capacity, there are also many tools out there, and I can use one full webinar to talk about these tools. But one of them I'm mentioning here is the non-value add model. And in this tool, you will be able to map out how do you spend your average week? You know, what is the time that you spend that could be considered as waste based on the lean manufacturing concept coming from my background at Toyota, so to speak. So once you identify the waste that you have in your week, and there's certain tools that can help you to do that, then it becomes your choice. What are you going to do with that time that you are spending that is not adding value? What are you going to do with that time? What are you going to do after 9:30? Are you going to spend it on Netflix, or are you going to spend it on something that would help you to reduce that conflict or help you to move forward with this vision, idea, or creation that you want to have for your career? With the finances, one book that speaks about how to support yourself with your transition to become an entrepreneur from corporate is a 10% rule. And the 10% rule is all about, if you allocate, let's say, a percentage, specific percentage of your salary per month, knowing that you are determined and decided that I want to become an entrepreneur, if you allocate a certain percentage to that bucket of entrepreneurship, so to speak, you can start investing that money on understanding what you want, on testing things, doing minimum valuable products, or going to the market and do some research. You can at least get some support to help you to understand where you want to be going next and how you're going to be planning for that. So whichever direction you want to take, get a course, and get involved in something, buy a product that could help you to test something. So use that money to invest on a venture that you want to be getting yourself into, and just use a small percentage of your recurrent salary. So that's one way to deal with finances. The people that I work with who already have been made redundant, let's say, and I have 2 people that are in this space. Here's the thing. Once you have clarity, once you know what you want, once you are determined that this is what I want to do, this is what I'm going to be moving forward with, these people that I was working with, they are not so much attached to to their self-judgment. If they go and get themselves any job, could be even a part-time job, it doesn't have to be to the same level that they had. It could be even lower level than they had, because they know themselves, this is only a transition. I'm just doing this in order for me to finance my new venture, my new career, my new direction, so to speak. So what have I done for myself? What helped me to actually transition from being in corporate to become an entrepreneur? And what am I using today with the people that I'm actually collaborating and working with? So here is a model that I have created, which I call it the 3-step reinvention model, because you're reinventing your career here. And the first step is quite straightforward, is about clarity. And there is 2 components in here. The first component is about unpacking and understanding what is that software that is driving your negative behavior, your mindset, your saboteur. Did you know that based on the research, all of us on average, we have 9 types of saboteur that they appear in different levels and in different intensity. And the saboteur is that inner negative talk that goes in your mind that tells you What makes you think you're going to succeed in this where everyone have tried and they have failed? So you want to understand where is that coming from and what does that do? And that alone, ladies and gentlemen, that knowledge alone is going to serve you not only, like I said, not only in your career, also in many aspects of your life, because you'll be tapping into stories that could even be coming from your childhood that is impacting your progress towards something that you would be passionate about. The other component is about clarifying. Now that you clarified what is stopping you, now you want to clarify where you want to go. So this is the work that I do with the Ikigai, with the map, with the structure, with the compass, which will lead you towards your North Star. This is where I want to go. You will have clarity and knowledge. Where is the future going to go? So that's the first step. The second step is about reframing. So now we understand what's the software and what is driving that negative behavior. And now it's about starting to reframe it. And starting to reframe it, I used, for example, the cognitive behavioral therapy model. And in that, ladies and gentlemen, it gets you to start challenging your boundaries of comfort zone. So you start growing your boundaries of comfort zone by stepping slowly outside of your boundary, taking 2 millimeter step outside of your boundaries that can enable you to stretch yourself. So you got to prepare yourself, whether you want to be venturing out to become an entrepreneur or even changing your career or try to find what is it that is blocking you or causing you the conflict. You got to be ready to confront some of these stories and some of these beliefs. And for you to do that, you need to have the capacity, you need to have the courage, obviously, to do that. So part of reframing is getting you to expand your comfort zone and also rethink, rework, reframe these negative behavior and negative belief system that most of us has, all of us has. That's the reality. The last piece is elevate. Elevate, this is when the rubber is hitting the road. So this is when things go into action. This is the plan. This is the goals. These are the milestones. These are the accountability. And this is really, where all the abstract that we've been working on is going to become a reality and is going to actually start taking shape and direction and plans and activities. So here is a typical journey that I take through the people that I work with. And this is what I have gone through as well, which is what I was talking about earlier, clarifying, reframing, and elevating. And the reframing goes throughout the whole journey. And discovering is the piece related to actually, unpacking and understanding what's a negative belief system that's driving you. The Ikigai is the compass and the direction. The strategic, the plans and the goal setting and the execution plan is all about actually understanding, if you're an entrepreneur, understanding things related, for example, to what problem are you solving? Who are your ideal clients? What the strategy that you're going to be following to go to market in terms of marketing and so on. What is your why? And how are you going to solve these problems? What makes you unique? Who are your competitors out there? So there's a lot of things that is going to be brought up once you identify where you want to be going as an entrepreneur. And you need to kind of work on that to understand where do you sit, where do you live, and how can you make yourself unique in what you're doing. And all of us, without a fail, are actually unique in a way or another. We all have skills and talent that makes us unique. And with the alignment and accountability, once we have the milestone and the goals, this is where you actually hit the road and start pushing forward and getting yourself accountable. And really, really, ladies and gentlemen, that's what makes up the difference between winning and losing. And I have seen it a lot, where people, when they get to that stage where they say, well, right now you need to start taking some actions, and they start, questioning themselves. And this is why that mental fitness, or the reframe, I call it, it's a must, because it has to be in every single part of the journey. Every time you take an action, or you want to get yourself out of your comfort zone through some accountability and deliverable, so to speak. So at the end of the day, don't take it from me. take it from all the people that I have worked with throughout this year and prior to that. And let me tell you, the volume of people that are interested in rethinking their career because of what we have gone through in the COVID. There's a lot of statistic that says 58 to 60% of people, they are willing to even take a pay cut as long as they can change their career or change their job. This is how much people are willing to step out of their current comfort zone to go into a direction that would be in line with their desires and where they want to be going in their career. Last but not least, ladies and gentlemen, what did we learn from podcast? So what do I mean by that? There was a longitudinal study that was done that took a period of 10 years from 2005 until 2015. And in that period of 10 years, they have mapped out how many podcasts was created. They've realized that there was 206,000 podcasts that were created in that period of 10 years. Now, if you are going into podcasting as an entrepreneur, and here I'm using this as a metaphor, obviously, and you want to actually go ahead and start your podcast, you'll be thinking to yourself, holy shit, I'm going to be going and competing with 206,000 podcasts. I mean, this is just not going to be viable. There's too many competition out there, if that rings a bell. There's too many people doing what I'm doing, what I'm thinking about doing, if that rings a bell. So based on that study, but because that was the wrong question to ask, there are too many people out there, or it's how can I survive? How can I compete with them? That wasn't the right question. Based on that study, they have identified that in that period of by 2015, out of that 206,000 podcasts, only 30% get to survive. Only 30% of the 206,000 got to survive. What's the common denominator? And that's the kicker. The common denominator for all these podcasts that survive is that all of them have created more than 12 episodes. And when they have measured in 2015, that 30% who got to survive, their criteria of survival is that they have created at least one podcast in the last 6 months. So if you are going to enter into the competition of podcasting in 2005 or throughout the 10 years, and you're always thinking, I'm competing with the 206,000, you're actually not competing with the 206,000. All what you have to do is make sure that you produce more than 12 podcasts and produce at least one podcast every 6 months, and you are guaranteed automatically to be classified in the 30% that actually survive. So what are we learning from here? We're learning from here two things, ladies and gentlemen: consistency and the small wins. So if you remain consistent with producing, with taking steps, with moving forward, with creating content, whatever direction you're taking with your career, whatever direction you're taking, if you remain consistent with that, and if you focus on the small wins, eventually this will make you part of the 30% who will get to survive. And that's one example. There could be many examples out there, because really you're not competing with the full volume of people who are in the market today. I just mentioned earlier, 1% out of 11,000 get to survive as part of the entrepreneurs. So you pretty much want to be as part of the 1%. So at the end of the day, the one thing that I wanted to share with you before I summarize here, that you don't have control over whatever happened to you. You don't have control over the events that happen to you. You don't have control over the occurrences that happen to you. But the one thing you have control over, and that can change your life completely, is what meaning you want to give to these events and these occurrences that happen to you, whether they are good things or bad things that happen to you. What meaning do you give to these events? And that comes down to really finding peace within yourself through working on your mindset, through having clarity, through at least showing up and be consistent and focus on the small actions or small wins, and testing. Am I cut out to be an entrepreneur? Is this for me or is this not for me? So to summarize everything that we were talking about here is you got to know first if you are cut out to be an entrepreneur or not. The second thing, which is the most important thing, is the mindset. You got to know that you have a programming that has been going all your life, that has been disabling you, unfortunately, in good faith, because it wants to keep you in a comfort, right? That has been disabling you from moving forward and following some of your passions, some of your aspiration in life. And things can be done in parallel. You don't have to be quitting your job. You don't have to quit your job cold turkey. It can be done in parallel. So, but you just have to have the right resilience and the right character traits in order for you to progress with that. And the final thing is that the conflict, whether again you want to find whether you are want to continue with your journey as a corporate person, or whether you want to be moving into entrepreneurship, you want to reduce that conflict, and you don't want that conflict to amplify. And giving a meaning to what is happening to you in your life is a way to actually reduce that conflict. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite you to connect with me. And I would like to thank you for your time and the energy that you have spent with me over this period of hour. And I put a lot of content online every single day, whether predominantly on Instagram, on Facebook. So by all means, connect with me on Facebook and Instagram. I have a lot of events and I get invited to a lot of webinars and many topics that I get to share. So if this is something that resonated with you today, I would really invite you to connect with me on any of these social media channels. Would be great. I look forward to actually connect with you. And as I promised, as always, I always give offers and I give freebies to the intonation community, especially Nadia's community, who's always been, consistent in showing up and collaborating. So the first thing that I would offer today is for the first people, five people who would be sending me an email right now. They will be receiving a career coaching along with a small diagnosis questionnaire that would help them to at least understand where are they today, what is blocking them, and potentially what direction they could be taking. And let me tell you, I've been doing this since the beginning of the year until now, over, I'm going to say, 25 webinars that I have done, and I've been giving something similar to this. Every single person that I've been talking to, without a fail, they would walk away with the aha moment. So by all means, capture this opportunity and let's have a chat. I'm happy to offer the 60-minute and along with the diagnosis questionnaire, small diagnosis questionnaire that can potentially give you a bit of a clarity and help you to kind of unpack where are you today and what's behind that. And finally, for anyone who's interested to take on my program, it's actually a 6-month program that is quite transformational. And by all means, I'm offering 35% today for the participants of this webinar and to the intonation. So if you are interested in taking this on, I'm offering this until the end of this year. And all you have to do, send me an email and put in the subject intonations or INs discount. And I'm happy to do that. And we can have a conversation over that to see if this is the right fit for you or this could serve you or not. So with that, I would like to thank you again for your time. I'm happy to open the mic for everyone right now. if you want to actually ask any question or have some intervention of some sort, by all means, you can unmute yourself. But before that, I would love for you to put in the chat your thought or one word of your experience in this webinar. So I would be really grateful if you could put either one word or your thoughts about this experience, your experience in this webinar. Could you do that, please? Can I ask you to put either one word or your thoughts of your experience of this webinar? I would appreciate that.